It was my birthday when my son handed me a beautifully wrapped box. Inside was a bottle of whiskey, the kind you don't find at a regular liquor store, something rare and expensive. He smiled in that rehearsed way of his, the kind of smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes, and said, "Enjoy it, Dad. Just don't overdo it." Everyone laughed politely, but something about the way he said it made the back of my neck prickle. I've learned over 75 years that sometimes words carry hidden meanings, and it sounded more like a warning than a joke. I brushed it off at the time, convincing myself I was being paranoid, but that night, after the house grew quiet and I sat alone in my living room, the bottle seemed to gleam in a lamplight like it was calling me. I poured a small glass, just enough to test the aroma, when my phone buzzed with a message that nearly stopped my heart. It was from my grandson, Jason. "Grandpa," it read, "don't drink the whiskey Dad gave you. He told me something terrible. Please, promise me you won't touch it." My hand froze around the glass, the golden liquid shimmering in the light like liquid fire. Before I go on, let me pause for a moment. If you're listening right now, do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and drop a comment with the time it is where you are right now. Trust me, you won't want to miss where this story goes. Jason's text kept replaying in my head like an alarm bell. I reread it 3 times, unable to make sense of it. My grandson was only 14, but he wasn't a liar. He had Martha's eyes, my late wife's, and when those eyes looked at you, there was no mistaking sincerity. My pulse thundered as I typed back, my hand shaking. "What do you mean? What did he tell you?" His reply came quickly, almost frantic. He said not to worry, that you'd never even notice. "But I think he put something in it. I saw him with a little bottle. Don't drink it, Grandpa. Promise me." The room suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier, as if the walls themselves were leaning in to hear what I would decide. I set the glass down on the coffee table, staring at the whiskey like it was poison in plain sight. I've lived long enough to know betrayal wears many faces, but never had I thought I'd see it in my own son. Memories flooded me. The day I taught him to ride his bike, the nights I worked double shifts to put him through college, the way Martha used to beam with pride when he came home with good grades. And now there was the possibility he had handed me a bottle not as a gift, but as a weapon. My throat tightened at the thought, not from fear of death, but from the sting of his betrayal. The house was quiet except for the steady tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway, the one Martha insisted we buy on our 30th anniversary. Each tick seemed louder now, like a countdown. I picked up the bottle again, turning it in my hands. The label was pristine, the seal unbroken. Expensive, no doubt. But Jason's warning kept echoing in my ears, and with each repetition, my doubt turned into certainty. My son had always been ambitious, but in recent years ambition had turned into desperation. His business had failed, debts piled high, and more than once he'd hinted that maybe it was time I thought about the future and made arrangements while I still could. At the time, I chalked it up to frustration, the stress of providing for his family. But now, with this bottle in my hands, I wondered if those hints had been something darker. I walked to the kitchen sink and held the bottle over the drain, my hand trembling. One twist of the cap, and I could pour it all away, eliminate the risk forever. But another part of me hesitated. If Jason was telling the truth, then what sat in my hand wasn't just a bottle of whiskey. It was evidence. Evidence that my own son wanted me gone. And if I poured it away, the truth would vanish with it, leaving only my suspicions. I set it down carefully, almost reverently, as if it were an artifact of some ancient betrayal. The phone buzzed again. Another message from Jason. "Grandpa, please tell me you didn't drink it." My eyes blurred for a moment, the weight of those words sinking deep into my chest. I typed back, "I didn't. Don't worry. You did the right thing telling me. I'm proud of you." His reply was almost instant, filled with the raw honesty only a child could deliver. "I love you, Grandpa. Please be careful." I sat in that quiet kitchen, staring at the bottle on the counter. Outside, fireworks from a neighbor's party exploded in the distance, bright bursts of light against the summer night. But all I could see was the darkness inside my own family, creeping closer than I had ever imagined. I thought birthdays were supposed to be a reminder of life, of years well lived. But this one had turned into something else entirely. It became the day I realized the person who shared my blood might also be the one plotting my end. I leaned back in Martha's old chair, the fabric worn smooth by decades of use, and whispered into the empty room, "What are you planning, son?" The whiskey bottle gleamed back at me from the counter. silent and deadly, and I knew that whatever truth hid within it, I would have to uncover it piece by piece. The next morning, I woke earlier than usual, the sun barely rising through the curtains. Sleep had been impossible, every creak of the house making me jolt awake, as if I expected someone to come through the door and demand to know why I hadn't touched the whiskey yet. The bottle sat on the counter where I'd left it, a silent reminder that the line between family and enemy had been blurred in my own home. I stood there in my robe, staring at it in the soft morning light, and I swear it looked different, no longer a gift, but threat wrapped in glass. My hands itched to throw it out, to smash it into 1,000 pieces and never look back, but Jason's message still burned in my mind. If I destroyed it, I destroyed proof. Proof that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't imagining this. Proof that my son's smile at dinner was more sinister than it appeared. I brewed coffee, strong and black, letting the bitter steam fill the kitchen. It had always been my ritual, the one thing I could count on every morning. But even that routine felt altered. My mug shook slightly in my hand, not from age, but from anger. Anger at the thought that my own child, the boy I'd raised, clothed, educated, and sacrificed for, might be calculating my worth in dollars instead of memories. The phone sat on the counter beside me, silent now, but I couldn't stop glancing at it. Jason's courage in sending that warning weighed heavily on me. What kind of pressure had he been under to even speak up? How much had he overheard before he realized he had to tell me? Around noon, I went for a walk to clear my head. The neighborhood looked the same as always, lawns trimmed, kids riding their bikes, neighbors waving as if nothing in the world could go wrong. Mrs. Carter was planting flowers in her garden, cheerful as ever, and she waved at me with her usual enthusiasm. "Happy birthday again, Henry," she called. "Did your son spoil you?" The words nearly choked me. Spoil me? Yes. With poison. I forced a smile, nodded, and kept walking. No one could know what was happening inside my house. No one would believe me yet. And until I figured out what to do, I had to wear the mask of a man whose family was intact. When I returned home, the house felt heavier than before. The silence was thick, pressing against my ears. I went straight to the counter, picked up the bottle, and turned it over in my hands. If there was something in it, I wouldn't see it. Whiskey masks everything. Its deep amber color hides any secret. That thought twisted my stomach, but I held on to it. I needed facts, not guesses. I grabbed a mason jar from the pantry, poured a sample of the whiskey into it, sealed the lid, and set it aside. It felt like a small act of defiance, like securing a piece of evidence in a trial only I knew was happening. Later that afternoon, my phone rang. My son's name flashed across the screen. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I considered letting it go to voicemail, but curiosity and dread forced my hand. "Dad," his voice came through casual, but too casual, the way someone sounds when they're testing the ground beneath their feet. "Did you enjoy the whiskey yet?" My throat went dry. "Not yet," I lied, try to sound cheerful. "Saving it for a special occasion." There was a pause, just long enough to confirm what I suspected. He wanted me to drink it sooner. "Well," he said finally, "don't wait too long. It's meant to be enjoyed, not sit on a shelf." I made some excuse about yard work and ended the call, but my pulse was racing. The way he asked, it wasn't the tone of a man eager to share a gift. It was the tone of a man waiting for a result. I sat down at my kitchen table, the same one where I'd once helped him with homework, balancing equations and sketching maps of states for geography class. How had that boy grown into a man who could do this? I thought back on the sacrifices, late nights working double shifts to pay for his college, the years I went without new clothes so he could have a decent suit for job interviews, the house I helped him put a down payment on when he said he wanted to raise his family in a safe neighborhood. I had given him everything I could, and now, perhaps, he had given me death in return. The day dragged into evening. I couldn't shake the paranoia that he might show up unannounced, that he might want to see me pour a glass just to be sure I'd taken the bait. Every sound outside made me peer through the curtains, expecting his car in the driveway. But it never came. Instead, my phone buzzed again at 7 p.m. A text this time. From him. "Thinking of you tonight. Hope you're enjoying your gift." My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Jason's warning echoed louder in my mind than ever before. I poured myself another cup of coffee, needing the bitterness to ground me. The whiskey bottle sat across the room, catching the lamplight, a silent adversary. I thought about calling Jason, about asking what exactly he'd seen, but I knew it wasn't safe to involve him further. He had done enough already, and the last thing I wanted was for his father to suspect him. No, this was my burden to carry and mine alone. But one thing had become clear. If I wanted to survive this, I couldn't keep pretending nothing had changed. I had to face the truth that my own son might have crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. I stood in the living room, holding the bottle again, and whispered into the empty house, "If this is what you meant as a birthday gift, then you've underestimated me, son." The whiskey gleamed like fire in the low light, and I felt the anger inside me harden into something else, resolve. I didn't know how yet, but I knew one thing for certain. I would not be his victim. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that bottle gleaming on the counter, its amber liquid catching the faint glow of the moon. I kept hearing my son's words on the phone, the way he pressed me to drink it. My chest tightened at the thought that if I had poured even a single glass, if Jason hadn't had the courage to reach out, my life could have ended quietly in this very house. I turned on the bedside lamp and sat up, sweat dampening my collar. At 75, a man should be worrying about his joints or his cholesterol, not whether his own child was plotting against him. And yet here I was, staring at the ceiling, knowing that blood had betrayed blood. By morning, I felt as though I'd aged 10 years overnight. I shuffled into the kitchen, made my coffee, and sat staring at the steam rising from the cup. The house was too quiet, almost oppressive. Every tick of the wall clock seemed louder than it had the day before. My eyes kept straying to the mason jar where I'd sealed the whiskey sample. I picked it up, tilted it, watched the golden liquid swirl. It looked innocent, harmless even, but Jason's warning had transformed it into a loaded gun. I needed answers. Not suspicions, not guesses, but answers that no one could deny. My mind began racing through options. I could take it to the authorities, but what would I say? I think my son poisoned my birthday whiskey. They'd laugh me out of the station without solid proof. No, I needed science. Cold, hard facts that could not be dismissed. I spent the morning researching toxicology labs. My background wasn't law, but decades as an engineer had taught me how to find credible information, how to distinguish between amateurs and professionals. By noon, I had a name, an independent laboratory downtown that handled food and beverage testing. I made the call, my voice steadier than I felt. "I need analysis on a liquid," I told the technician. "Possible adulteration." She didn't flinch, didn't ask unnecessary questions. Just gave me an appointment for the following morning. Hanging up, I felt the first sliver of control return to me. The rest of the day stretched long and uneasy. Around 3 in the afternoon, the phone rang again. His name appeared on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. "Dad," he said, tone light, too light. "I was just thinking, how was the whiskey? Did you try it yet?" My heart pounded, but my voice stayed calm. "Not yet," I lied smoothly. "I'm waiting for the right evening to enjoy it." There was a silence on the other end, brief but telling. "Well, don't let it sit too long," he said finally. "It's best enjoyed fresh." Fresh. The word struck me like a blow. Poison doesn't get stale. He wanted confirmation. He wanted me gone. I ended the call quickly, muttering about errands, but my blood boiled as I set the receiver down. I tried distracting myself by working in the garage, tightening bolts on old tools, sorting through boxes of Martha's things I hadn't touched in years. But every sound of the phone vibrating from the kitchen sent my pulse spiking. By evening, I couldn't take the tension anymore. I sat at the dining table with my old photo albums spread out before me. There was my son at age 10, grinning with missing teeth as he held up the first birdhouse we'd built together. Another photo showed him at 16, beaming with pride after hitting the winning baseball at his high school game. I had loved him with all I had, sacrificed everything to give him a future. And now, perhaps, he was measuring my life against mortgage payments and debts. My hand trembled as I closed the album. The boy in those pictures was gone. When night fell, I locked the doors, pulled the curtains tight, and sat in the living room armchair with the mason jar of whiskey on the table beside me. I stared at it like it was an opponent across a chessboard, daring me to make the next move. Jason's message replayed in my mind over and over. My grandson, a child caught in a web spun by his father. I wondered what fear had driven him to reach out to me, what loyalty to truth had overcome the pressure of silence. I owed him my life now, whether he realized it or not. I whispered to the dark room, "Don't worry, Jason. I'll protect you. I'll protect us both." Morning came, gray and heavy with clouds. I dressed in my best shirt, the one Martha had always said made me look dignified, and drove downtown. The laboratory building loomed cold and sterile, all glass and steel. Inside, the technician, a young woman with a steady gaze, took the mason jar without blinking. "We'll run a full analysis," she said. "Should be ready in a few hours." I signed the forms, my signature firm despite the trembling in my hands. The waiting was torture. I paced the lobby, sat in the car, drank bitter coffee from a paper cup that tasted like cardboard. My thoughts kept circling. What if I was wrong? What if Jason had misunderstood? But then I remember my son's whisper, "Don't choke on it," and my doubts evaporated like mist under the morning sun. Finally, they called my name. I followed the technician into a consultation room where charts glowed on screens. She handed me a folder, her expression professional but tinged with concern. "We found something," she said. Her words echoed in my head like a hammer striking steel. "A sedative compound, benzodiazepine derivative. The concentration is significant. Consumed over time, especially by someone your age, it could cause serious harm. Possibly worse." The folder trembled in my hands as I opened it, graphs and chemical breakdowns staring back at me. Proof. Cold, undeniable proof. I left the lab with the report tucked under my arm, the city around me a blur of honking cars and rushing pedestrians. My ears buzzed, my body moved on autopilot, but my mind was razor sharp. My son had tried to kill me. My grandson had saved me. And now, I had the evidence to confront the truth. I drove home from the laboratory with the manila folder heavy on the passenger seat beside me. It felt like I was carrying a verdict from a courtroom, except the trial hadn't even begun. Each stoplight on the way seemed to last an eternity, every driver's horn in traffic a reminder that the world outside kept turning, as if nothing had changed. But for me, everything had changed. The report left no room for doubt. My son, the boy I had once carried on my shoulders, had deliberately laced a bottle of whiskey with poison meant to silence me slowly. I gripped the steering wheel, so tightly my knuckles turned white, rage and grief fighting for control inside me. When I pulled into the driveway, I sat in the car for several minutes, engine idling, staring at the house I had built with my own hands. This place had stood through storms, through Martha's passing, through countless family gatherings filled with laughter. Now it stood as a battleground between loyalty and betrayal. I switched off the ignition, gathered the folder, and walked inside. The air felt heavier than before, as though even the walls knew what I carried. I spread the papers across the dining table like exhibits in a courtroom: chemical graphs, concentration levels, medical warnings. My eyes scanned the phrases: respiratory depression, cardiac irregularities, fatal outcome possible. I thought of Jason again, that boy's courage in sending me the warning text. He'd spared me from drinking death, disguised as a birthday gift. My hand brushed across the documents, and a cold realization settled in. I couldn't keep this secret. Not anymore. The phone rang. His name appeared on the screen: David. My son. My betrayer. My heart lurched, but I answered, steadying my voice. "Dad," he said, "did you enjoy the whiskey yet?" That fake warmth cut like a blade. I paused long enough for him to feel my hesitation. "Not yet," I said quietly. "But we should talk." His tone sharpened. "About what?" I forced calm into my words. "About family. Come over tonight. 7 o'clock. There was a silence, then a laugh, the kind of laugh that didn't reach the eyes. "I'll be there." He hung up before I could say more. The hours until 7 dragged like years. I cleaned the living room, not because it needed cleaning, but because I needed something to occupy my hands. I placed the whiskey bottle on the coffee table, not the poisoned one, but a clean one, identical in appearance. Beside it, 2 glasses gleamed under the lamp. The folder of evidence rested on the armchair, ready for the moment of truth. As I rehearsed the confrontation, my pulse raced. This wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. This was about confronting a man who had chosen greed over blood, who had turned his back on everything I had taught him. At 7 sharp, headlights flashed across the window. I drew a slow breath and opened the door. David stepped in, wearing his navy blazer, his smile rehearsed. "Dad," he said warmly, "you look good." I studied him silently. He smelled faintly of cologne, his eyes sharp, calculating. He glanced at the bottle immediately, his smile widening. "Ah, the whiskey. Finally decided to try it." I gestured to the chair across from me. "Sit." He settled in, posture relaxed, eyes flicking to the glasses like a predator waiting for prey. I poured 2 drinks, the amber liquid glinting under the light. "To family," I said, raising my glass. He mirrored me without hesitation, his eagerness almost grotesque. He swallowed a large gulp, smacking his lips. "Smooth, isn't it?" he said, eyes glinting. I leaned forward, my voice low but steady. "How does it feel, David, to drink what you intended for me?" His smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" he asked too quickly. I placed the folder on the table and opened it, sliding the lab report toward him. "Read it. They found benzodiazepine derivatives in the bottle you gave me. Enough to kill me slowly. You wanted me gone, didn't you?" The color drained from his face. He pushed back in his chair, shaking his head. "That's ridiculous. Someone must have tampered with it afterward." But his voice cracked, betraying him. I slammed my palm on the table, the sound echoing through the room. "Enough. Jason saw you. He told me everything. You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought I'd just drink myself into oblivion and you'd collect the inheritance." His jaw clenched, rage flickering across his features. "That kid doesn't know what he saw. You've always believed him over me." I rose to my feet, towering over him. "I believed in you for 45 years, David. I paid your tuition. I co-signed your mortgage. I saved you from debt after debt. And this," I pointed to the report, "is how you repay me? By plotting my death." He stood too, trembling now, whether from rage or fear, I couldn't tell. "You don't understand," he spat. "I was drowning. Wendy's gone, the bank's after me, the credit cards are maxed. I needed the house. I needed the money. You're old, Dad. Why couldn't you just give it up?" The words hit me harder than any punch could. Old. As though my years of work, my memories, my sacrifices were just an inconvenience to him. My chest heaved with fury. "Because this house is my life, David. Every nail, every board. It was meant to be your inheritance, not your weapon." The silence that followed was suffocating. He stared at me, jaw tight, eyes burning with shame and defiance. I reached for the folder again, this time pulling out another document, my newly signed will. I held it up. "You get nothing now. Not $1. It all goes to Jason. He will never know the burden of your greed." David's face crumpled, his confidence shattering. "You can't do that," he whispered hoarsely. "Watch me," I said coldly. "And if you ever come near me or Jason again, I'll take this report straight to the police. Attempted murder leaves no room for forgiveness." He backed away, shaking, his lips trembling as though words failed him. For the first time in his life, my son looked small. He turned, stumbling toward the door, and without another word, vanished into the night. I stood there long after the door clicked shut, my body trembling, the weight of what had just transpired pressing down on me. I poured myself a small, clean glass of whiskey. Raising it to the silent room, I whispered to Martha's photo on the mantel, "Justice, my love. Justice for us both." The drink burned as it went down, but for the first time in weeks, I felt clarity. I sat back, exhausted but resolute, knowing that Jason had saved my life and that I had reclaimed my dignity. My bloodline had betrayed me, but another part of it had redeemed me. And in that balance, I found peace. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means everything, and I'd love to hear where in the world you're listening from right now.